Now, the first soliloquy to Shakespeare's Hamlet. The word soliloquy comes from our Italic Latin tongue. Solus meaning alone, loqui refers to speech, thus a speech spoken when the character is alone. And the first soliloquy gives us the first glimpse of Hamlet's innermost thoughts and feelings. Hamlet has returned to Denmark from the University of Wittenberg in Germany, where he is a student, for the funeral of his father. And the University of Wittenberg is an interesting choice on Shakespeare's part, for it is at the University of Wittenberg that Martin Luther taught, and the Reformation, the break from the Holy Roman Catholic Church, had its beginnings. So Shakespeare was playing it politically safe for the time of Queen Elizabeth and the court of Queen Elizabeth I. Hamlet has returned to Denmark for the funeral of his father, only to find that his mother is to be remarried in less than 2 months' time of his father's death, and to his uncle Claudius, his father's brother, and for the coronation of Claudius as the anointed king of Denmark. It's important to remember that Hamlet has not yet seen the ghost of his father. Thus, he does not know that it was his uncle Claudius who murdered his father, nor has he been sworn to avenge that murder. And that raises, or will raise, two interesting points. One of patricide, the murder of one's father, in this case stepfather, for Claudius is now his stepfather. But surely that of regicide. Regicide is the murder of an anointed king. In the first soliloquy, Hamlet is primarily concerned with the remarriage of his mother to his uncle in less than 2 months' time, a marriage which was considered incestuous at the time. Shakespeare does not go into the political details of the structure of the Danish monarchy except in one line, and that is a line in which Hamlet, referring to Claudius, says that he has, quote, popped in between the election and my hopes, end quote. And that clearly shows us that, according to Shakespeare, Denmark was an elected monarchy, which indeed it was. Shakespeare was right on. Up until 1660, Denmark was an elected monarchy. However, the election usually went to the king's eldest son. Hamlet being the only son of King Hamlet, they had the same name, he would have been the heir apparent to the throne of Denmark. And yet, Hamlet expresses no concern in the first soliloquy for the loss of his throne. Now, as to the Italic contribution, well, the series that we did called Shakespeare, the Italian Contribution, we went into depth about that. But just as a reminder, that Britannia, a Roman given name, was a province of Roma for 400 years, and of Rome's linguistic contribution to English. Today we recognize that English is rooted in Germanic, Anglo-Saxon. However, 60 to 65% of its vocabulary comes either directly or indirectly from the Latin. And if we look at the first soliloquy of Hamlet, we can see that its most descriptive words come from our Italic Latin. However, by the Elizabethan era, Elizabethan playwrights had fully absorbed the Latin contribution and continue to do so. However, their plays are distinctly English. And Shakespeare, his genius would bring his plays, and indeed Hamlet, to a pinnacle of English drama and language. But now, the first soliloquy to Shakespeare's Hamlet, first in English, then in Italiano.